Okay, so moving on. Next presentation will be Camels in Country, the Rules of Engagement in Spinifex Lands. Byron Brooks, Ethan Hansen, Troy Hansen and Peter Twigg.
Thanks, Steve, and thanks to the Māori mob and everyone else that's been here today. Apologies from Byron. We had one old man with us, but unfortunately Byron got bitten by a dog the other day, and he's all right, but he wasn't really up to coming to the other side of the country and chasing us around the place, so apologies for Byron. Now I've got a bit the same problem, and I know Steve thinks I have, of the camels. There's a big number of slides in here, and you've got to get through them in a short time. So let me just press on. I'm just going to run through the presentation, and Troy and Ethan, two brothers from Junundara, they're going to just say something at the very end. We're from Spinifex country in the Great Victoria Desert of Western Australia. Look how quick I'm going already, Steve. That's just a bit of a close-up. It's inside your book, so I won't go into the various bits and pieces there. Spinifex mob got native title in the year 2000. There's 55,000 square kilometres of land there. It's about the size of 4/5 of Tasmania, someone told me. It's Ngandara to the north of us, Pilkey country to the west, and Serpentine Lakes, which was one of the camel hotspots, is on our eastern border. And Junundara is the main Spinifex community. It's down the south, that previous map. Our rules of engagement, we were asked if we would talk about the rule or the engagement process, which we sort of will be. Rules of engagement's an interesting term. I will come back and say a little bit about these at the end, but there are a few things which I think this Ninti-led project has in fact achieved, and I think they're quite important things. I'll just run over them here. Engaging with groups out there, we are presuming that we're talking about Aboriginal land. I think that's the very first and most important assumption of all. Puts things on the table that are relevant to each party and understands that opportunities will be found with converging benefits, so there's things in this for both. Engages as equal parties, refer to point number one. This is more unusual than it should be. That includes economics and commercial relations. Work with a timetable that suits the community. You never know when an old man's going to get bitten by a dog or something like that that changes things, and you've got to be able to work with that. Foster all opportunities for dual purpose activities. Full disclosure about what's happening and why and when. And Jan talked this morning about the importance of giving people from different places and backgrounds an opportunity to say what they want and what they're doing and why. Very, very important. And utilises local capacity, and goodness knows there's a lot of that out there. Helicopters and camels are two converging themes, so I thought what we'll do is talk about how it is that the Spinifex mob came to be enthusiastic participants in this project. So I'm going to tell two separate stories here, but I want you to see them as converging stories. Camel story number one is finding Djidjiti. Djidjitis are soak on lake country in a sort of central zone. We'd had several attempts to get in there and find the place with old people over several years, couldn't make it. And then there was a mining exploration track put in, and coming off that track, we drove in on what was an incredible and arduous journey. It took 4 days. We destroyed the clutch in a Hilux and abandoned it in the middle of nowhere. It took about 6 months to get back in and rescue it. It was very exciting to get in there. It was a wonderful moment for people to find the place, and both Hansen brothers and myself and Byron, we were all part of that expedition. It was wonderful. When we got there, we found the lake and fixed tyres and things as you do. The actual soak was pink. It was bright pink, brighter than this shirt, even brighter than his shirt. And it's not a good colour to see a rock hole, bright pink with this layer of stuff on top of it. And we started to fish around in there, and of course there was a dead camel in there. I say dead camel, but you couldn't kind of see anything or recognise anything. It was just this stuff in there. It wasn't meat, it wasn't fat, it wasn't dirt, it wasn't sludge. I don't know what it was, but boy, it stunk. And getting out of there was a horrendous job. And we sort of enthusiastically set about doing it. No one paid too much attention, it was very stinky. But after, getting back in the car, looking at shovels, smelling anything that had been there, that took days, weeks for that smell to get off your body and out of your clothes, out of shovels and things, terrible stink. And was part of this growing sense that, you know, camels are a real problem. They're a problem in the countryside. This is a painting of Djitjiti, painted by Carleen West, the current senior person from the area. Beautiful area, big story, lake country, and a soak called Djitjiti. Helicopter story number 1, finding Ilbilly. Ilbilly is also a soak. You've got to imagine in the desert how important soaks are. Rock holes are important, but soaks, permanent water, where the artesian water is close to the surface, close enough that you can dig down and find water. Very important sites. There is a soak called Ilbilly, and it's east of Miramirajara, which is, Miramirajara itself is a long way from Durundara. Ilbilly is just impossible to get there, so far away. I'll just tell you briefly the story of finding Ilbilly. There was an old man, we lost him now. It was his place, he always painted it, and he talked a lot about it. And there's one of his paintings of this soak country, permanent water. Anyway, it's a long story, I'll only tell you a very brief part. Basically, we met up with this guy, private man, with a checkbook in his back pocket, and he said, I'll help you find it. What do you need? We said, we need a helicopter. And he said, yep, okay. Can you get fuel there? Yep, we can get fuel there. So he came with his checkbook. We met him at Ilkuka. I'll skip past because that photo's a bit sad. We went out to Miramirajara, which was a big expedition. We set up out there. We worked out which way we're going to go. Put this old man in the chopper, put this old man in the chopper, both of whom been there in the early days. It took 22 minutes in the chopper to find it. This is Troy and Anton digging out the soak. We flew them in, found it, went back to Miramirajara, put some young fellas in, they dug the soak out. First digging of the soak in 50 years. Camel story number 2. How am I going, Steve? I'm getting there. Waianu. Waianu is a quandong. I better just skip to the next story. That's a photo of a quandong tree that's 6 metres tall, which is massive. And we met this young guy. We were doing a survey out there. He's a young guy with, dreadlocks and eats tofu and, knows what couscous is and this sort of thing. He also knows his way around the Australian landscape. And we were doing this survey, he called us on the radio, come and have a look at this quandong tree, it's 6 metres tall. It was in a valley. So we went there, had a look at it, wow, that's tall, Waianu, that's a big tree. He said, have a look down the valley. There were 6 other trees in the valley, but all of them dead. And he said, what's happening here is that old tree is dropping seeds, they're growing, the camels are eating them, they're dying. And when this old tree is finished, there'll be no more camels in this valley. And this is what happens to quandong trees. When they're little, they grow slow, and they've got to get really tall to get past the camel's height. And he said to us, the future of quandong in Australia doesn't look good. And then I'm with Tom, I can't read that big name, I'm just going to call it the Camel Project because as far as I can see it's the only project out there anyway and we all know what we mean. So the Camel Project came, bunch of guys with maps, questions and helicopters. And remember the Ilbilly story, we had our attention on helicopters. They wanted to fly around, get permission, look at exclusion zones, stuff like that, and we were like, yeah, sure. We're got to be in the chopper too. Certainly, we go wherever you want to go. It was a good thing. So here's the convergence. Helicopters coming to Spinifex country. Remember the map, 55,000 square kilometres with only 2 roads in it. Lots and lots of country, lots of old people, lots of places you can't get to unless you've got a helicopter. So we met up at Ilkuka and we took fuel out along those roads and we made fuel dumps and we set up camps and we dragged old people around. Chaos and planning. These guys would know what chaos and planning means. Trying to do those sort of logistics on those kind of resources in those kind of places is pretty damn difficult, but it's good fun too. These sort of speak for themselves. It is an amazing feeling being in a chopper at 150 feet because you're in the landscape still. You can see a big tree is still a big tree, a big sandhill is still a big sandhill, and people with incredible memory of country and where places are. And we've flown all over the place. We found a lot of sites. And it's a fantastic thing. You note those, that wasn't intentional, those camel bones, but somebody mentioned any trips into country, any rock holes that you find, there's dead camels in it or around it, near it, bones. That's a constant. So Spinifex Mob have been busily involved in all this, doing logistical works and fuel dumps and things, and the partnership was growing. I'm going to jump over this one, move on to this. We had training come to Spinifex, training for ground shooting. And these are serious people. These are the kind of guys that I reckon you could stand 500 metres away and hold your hand up like this and they could shoot through it and you'd be pretty comfortable with them. They're serious fellows. The training was fantastic. The rangers were really into it. They learnt a lot. There's a lot about safety, there's a lot about maintenance, there's a lot about technique. People are good shots already, good shooters. Anangal generally, good shooters. But gee, they learnt a lot from that training. Part of the training you've got to do, they put these targets up and see that fox there's got a picture on its heart, and they go through different caliber weapons and they say, right, 10 shots through the heart and then one in the head. And when they were doing this, I think that bench shot earlier, and they said to Edward, who wasn't here, okay, Edward, kill the fox. And he went, Phew! And the guy said, hey, you shot it in the head, thinking you were supposed to do 10 in the heart and then one in the head. And Edward said, yeah, you said kill the fox. Good shots, good training, good experience for those trainers to realise, gee, there's some capable people out there, capable, armed and effective. Did butchery training, which was fantastic, good part of it. So managing Spinifex lands, controlling camels, they've been controlling the numbers by helicopter, ground shooting by Spinifex rangers, cross-fertilisation. So this dual project that we were on, a common goal against camels, promoting biodiversity initiatives. We were taking samples, dog gunners and stuff, you land in a helicopter, grab any dog turds that are there, send them away, find out what's there, dog scats. It's a real win-win situation for anybody involved in it. 2 minutes, I'm getting there. Kaukali and beyond, this is just a picture of of part of Spinifex. We put that road in as part of this program for ground shooting. All those yellow dots are places that we found, some by road, the rest by chopper. There's lots of lessons to be learnt here. I think we can tell a very good story in Spinifex, as some of these other places can. Go back to those rules of engagements. That's what allows a good story to be told. And just for conclusion, I'll ask Troy and Ethan to say something. There's only 2 slides left, this one and one more, and we're right on time.
As you can see, we're sitting there as a group, like getting ready to make sure we get permission of all people first, and then we'll go ahead and do the work. Not only for camels, but as Twigg is showing the map on the next page, we also do cultural mapping stuff, so we can look after the waterholes properly and the soaks. Because I think it's better for like aerial shooting in their area, because it's really hard to get through those big sandhills. So I think, like as Twigg was saying, for ground shooting, we already trained it. I think we really need more aerial shooting right in that area. So that's just the more impact we need, I think.